Hey, it's Spence from WP Launchify. Today I'm going to do a new video type that I think I'm going to introduce on a regular basis. Let me know what you feel or how this helps you if you find it interesting. I'm going to do a live customer support request. I've got KPI Black Belt here, which is Bernie Smith's site, and he has a couple questions that I feel are relevant to almost everybody in the community who are using the MinuteLaunch solution. So I wanted to share this with you. He had two main questions. First of all, he wants to do a checkout of a product and include the product at the actual checkout page itself. So let's start out with what he's got right now, and then we're going to work our way backwards on how we can make this a real easy solution. This is actually one of the options that LaunchFlows, the software I write, provides, and it's really, really easy. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. If you go to the checkout, you can do a custom layout where you have various fields all set up the way that you want to. Now, Bernie's got a bunch of different things here that he's experimenting with, so I'm going to break the bank a little. Number one thing also is that when you're working with the fields, you can adjust which things display, which things move around, which things are hidden. Keep in mind, because we are working with cadence, which is awesome, you have a bit of a responsive option as well. So watch what happens. Some of the fields are going to get wonky depending on where the breakpoint is. That actually worked out pretty well. But my point being, if you're not happy with some of these subfields, for example, you can adjust their full width or half width. All right, now Bernie's main question was he wanted to offer his primary product, which is the KPI Black Belt program, on the actual checkout page. In order to do that, we have at least three ways of doing it. The number one way of doing it is we can use an order bump component from LaunchFlows that's just a toggle. It could either be a checkbox or a radio button. If you have a product that has multiple variations, that means you can choose one or the other, or you can choose multiples. That's probably the easiest way of doing it. Next, we have a new thing which is called product toggles or simple product toggles, similar to order bump, except what's nice about those is that you can actually create more data inside of the actual listing. You can customize it on the fly just by using the product ID, whereas with order bumps, it kind of shows the default content that originally was associated to the product. And then finally, we could just use the direct to checkout links, which would work perfectly fine here on the page. I suppose there's one other option as well, which we can talk about. That is that you can just literally put the choices of the products on the page. Either way, you want to make sure, number one, that the products themselves are going to go to the checkout page. So let's go ahead and first of all, see the product itself and set it up. If we go back over here to products, fortunately, I think Bernie has only got the primary product. It's a variable product, and it has the option for somebody to choose which cohort starting date. Let me take over this from Bernie if he's in there. Bernie is located in England, so he's working later into the day, and I'm going to interrupt his workflow. Take over. By the way, when you're working with WordPress, if one of your team members is working on the same site, it gives you the option to take over from them and then saves their work so they don't lose their place, but it allows you to go in there and get your stuff done. Notice here we've got a variable product. Okay, it could be a simple product. A variable product means you have options. And also let's look at LaunchFlows. Notice that it's still using the original product template, which means that if we were going to look at this product in the native page, it would have the normal WooCommerce layout with the drop-down choices. We can adjust those in two ways. If you wanted, just adding a little extra oomph here, we could choose radio buttons. There is a plugin inside of the software bundle, WPLaunchify.com software bundle. It's in your Launch Kit installer that you can choose to use radio buttons instead of drop downs. If we search for radio, it's the WPC Variations Radio Buttons plugin. When you install that, you get the result kind of like I have at WPLaunchify.com, which is on any of the variable products. Let's do actually WPLaunchify.com shop. Any of the variable products, let's see, like my hands-on support. Instead of doing the drop-down, I prefer to show radio buttons. I just think it looks nicer and it's easier. Either of those is a really easy way on the native page. But that takes a lot of space up if you're going to do it on the checkout. So we're not going to actually do that. Instead, what I want you to understand is we're going to go to the variations that have been created, which I think are just the cohort dates. September, February, and September. Notice they each have a unique ID, 2555, 2556, 2557. So let me just copy this first of all. If we were to start with this idea, we can do on the checkout page an order bump for any or all of those products. Let's go to the checkout page, click it into editor, and we'll do the order bump method first. I also want to clean up what Bernie has done here. I'm not a fan of what he may have done is pulling this order review up into the top. I don't think that works out very well here. So I'm going to change this just slightly. It's personal preference, but because of what I'm about to do, I think we need the attention at the top to be focused, not so much on that as much as on the actual choices for the order bump. So let's first of all, using LaunchFlows, let's drag this down and put the order review over here on top of the payment. Notice with LaunchFlows, we've just got these little cards that represent the content that has been almost like in the old days of cutting a coupon out of a newspaper, cut out so we can move it around, we can hide it, we can style it. Very simple. Notice that I've got on the top these login and the notices. I'm actually going to rearrange this as well because these are going to do better if we just put them at the top of these columns. This is just experience talking. When somebody wants to see their login and the notice, and this is at the top, it works out well. The coupon is a question of whether you want to actually offer coupons. If you're not going to offer coupons, we can hide it all together. I'm not sure if Bernie wanted to offer coupons. He's still got it in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to de-emphasize this, and I'm going to put it down here right before the payment, which is a pretty good spot for it. And then these buttons, what I'll call control buttons, are here to allow somebody to decide what to do next. This actually is quite useful if it's at the bottom. It shouldn't obviously be the primary thing. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to change the order of these. I'll put it below the primary stuff. And if we need to, we can weave it in a little better. Notice also out of the box, I've made the patterns that you can put for these layouts using the traditional Gutenberg blocks. Now that I know I'm going to be using cadence here, I'm going to just swap those out. So I'll do a little housekeeping here. And I'm going to use the cadence row, 2 columns, and I always want to inherit the max width of the theme. And then I'm just going to transplant, watch what I'm doing. I'm just going to transplant the content from the default Gutenberg columns into the cadence row because it gives me much greater control over styling and consistency. All right, now that I've done that, let's temporarily save so we don't lose our work. Let's do our order bump. So what I like to do is we can put a new row above. Again, the same reason why I like to stay consistent is that I'll get each row is like a Tupperware container that's stacked. Now I'm actually going to do 2 columns here, even though I may not need it, because I want to perhaps do some other things to balance this out. But right now I'm going to stay at the 50-50. Make sure to do inherent max width from theme. What that does is if you have a background that's, let's say, a colored background, an image, it will go 100%. And if you've styled the page as a full width page, it will fill nicely. But the container, there you go, the container that you've got, which is typically 1290 pixels, will be the limits of what the inner stuff does. So the background can go full width. The content in the middle stays within a readable width. Here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a couple components. First of all, let's do one of the bumps. Just type /bump to put in the LaunchFlows order bump. Notice this wild and crazy hot pink color I've chosen. That means you're using one of the LaunchFlows components. And now I'm going to paste that 2555 as the product for the first bump. You have some parameters here you can choose. Yes or no to show the image, title, price. I want to do all of those. We can do a style of either P round or P square. If we do round, that would indicate a radio button. That's typically when you choose either this or that or the other. If you want somebody to choose multiples, you would switch this to square, and that would show a square checkbox. That indicates that you can choose from multiples. Now, I'm not sure which way Bernie wants to do this, so I'm going to go with what my gut tells me, round. The short description is probably helpful here. That is the extra description that you've got to indicate what the product does. We'll see if it gets to be too much, and the title might be just enough. Okay. In fact, what I'm going to do right now is let's just actually say no. Okay. Now, what we can do is set up all three of these. All I need to do now is duplicate this once, duplicate it twice, duplicate it a third time. And then we did 25, 56, and 7. Now, don't pay attention to the relative height of this because this isn't what's going to happen. You'll see in a second, the actual output we have to check on the front end. So what we're going to do is, once that saves, let's refresh the checkout page. And you start to see where we're going. Now, the reason that I made this adjustable is with this row layout. Notice when I select row at the top, I can just take this grab handle and tweak this bad boy just enough to make sure it fits. But this is also a question about what I want to use for the real title, because these are really wordy. I don't think that that's a great choice. Choose your start date - September 2025. We might come up with something else. But if I don't, at least you can see that we've got something that looks pretty nice. I'm also feeling that the checkout page title is not helping. So I'm going to go up here to the page settings, disable the header, disable the title. Don't really need that. If we want, we can put a separate word that's selected and styled accordingly for checkout. But I think it's self-evident that one is on the checkout page, in my opinion. And by the way, if you wanted to see how we would do that, you could choose to do it above or below this row. Because the row itself has 2 columns, it would work to put it into the left side. So we could, for example, just in this left-hand section above the order bump, we could type heading, do an advanced text, and just do something in an H3 checkout. Now, you have to ignore on the actual page that shows checkout twice, because on the actual front end, where it's important, it won't. Notice this will give us a better sense of control. I'm not a fan of it anyway, so I'm going to leave this out. I don't think you need to tell people the obvious. All right. What we do want, though, is to decide what to do about these order bumps. Remember, I indicated you have a choice with LaunchFlows. If we go back to the product, and by the way, this is why we have that weird title. We're going to call this KPI Black Belt. Okay. And that way, we don't have to worry about what Bernie was trying to do, which is in good faith, but he asked me for this help. This is what I love to do. I like to show you how to do it better. We want to call the product what the product is. The variations have, in this case, the name of the date. You could use custom price string. So, for example, this price string says $4,500 by default, but you could do something like, you could type in September 2025. And then it'll show up as the price. I don't think that's necessary either. What I'm going to do is just at the checkout page, add the necessary labels to let you know what we're going to be doing. Let's first see what it looks like cleaning up the title. Much better. Okay, now let's go ahead inside of here. We've got this section. If we want to, we can either use the section as a styling container, or we could put something else inside of there as a styling container. I would like to give a graphical and a verbal indication that this is sort of like you got to choose one or the other. Let's start with the basics. Let's just add, like we just did a moment ago, a heading. And we're going to do a much smaller text here. And we're going to indicate what we want somebody to do. I think we'll start with the paragraph text. All right. And we're going to say, please choose your start date. Kind of what Bernie wanted to do before. If you don't feel that's big enough for emphasis, back it up to a 6 or an H5. And by the way, even if you have those, you can always selectively click on that particular Gutenberg block and then choose the style, including your default font size, or you can be very granular and get down to pixels. Either way you want to do it. Looking at this, we're going to end up with a very nice arrangement. Starting to get the idea, right? Now, what if we made this stylistically a little more attractive? This is the reason why we use the row layout. Let's, for example, make this whole thing slightly different style in the background to set it off. So I'm going to go to the background and I'm going to choose just a very light gray color. And then I would like to probably go border settings. where my video thing is in the way. Let's do border radius, where I will lock in the radius and maybe do 10 pixels just to round the edges off. And we've already got some decent padding in there. That might be enough. Let's see how it looks right now. This is a way to just give a little bit of an emphasis that there's something at the top of the page that requires attention. Okay, so pretty straightforward. Now notice, I could probably bump back for my anal retentive design feelings. I could probably bump this back now to 50-50 so that it lines up with the left column. And then I can use this right-hand column for aesthetic purposes, right? I could put, for example, an image in here, if I spelled it correctly. Use advanced image. And this gives you a chance to kind of balance things out or talk about the cohort, whatever you want to do. I'm going to just put in this pretty logo. It'd be nice if we had a background one that was transparent. But let's just use this for now. We'll see how it works out. This is not a good one. It's just not the right size. Let's try a different one. I'm quite sure he's got some logos here. Notice Bernie's taking advantage of using Filebird, which is really terrific when you use it with our Media Hub plugin as well. So you can have a central library of imagery. Let's see if he's got a better logo in his KPI Black Belt logo, which this is a great use case of what I would do with Filebird. So I guess 6 kilobits, 24. This one looks like it might be better. I'm not sure. Better enough. Okay, now what I want to do is let's just make sure we've aligned it center. And then on the actual section, we're going to vertical down to middle, which is going to put it in its place. And then I think finally what I'm going to do is I'm going to max width this thing because I don't want to exceed the original image information. So let's just say 300. Okay. That's enough to kind of like give you a sense of what you could do here. I oftentimes will put instructions or, Spence. Let's also balance out the height of the other stuff on the left-hand section so that it's not starting high and the other one starting in the middle. Let's do a line in the middle for both. And that should give us a nice kind of like balanced top and bottom. I'm pleased with that. Looks pretty sharp. All right, now let's do this in action. When we've got our product and we have variations, LaunchFlows gives us the choice of whether we want to have only one variation. This is in the product data, LaunchFlows. Only one variation means you can pick one or the other, but not all of them, not multiples. Okay, so let's go ahead and check out. Once that saves. Perfect, refresh. Now what'll happen is you'll notice on the right-hand side of the order review, this review is bugging me. There's just too big. The image is too big. Let's fix that so that we use our parameter height. Let's change the height of that to 50 pixels, which should be more than enough. And since it's a square, we don't have to do the width. You could do the height or the width or both in order to balance it out. Okay, notice that got a little wanky. So we're going to do height and width. Oh, sorry. The parameter was already there. I just looked past that. Let's make that 50. And we still have an issue a little bit that it's just very wordy, so it's not a lot of space here. There's a couple things that we could do with this. Either we could disable the display of the thumbnail selectively, which wouldn't be a bad idea. We could arrange the fields slightly different, or we could just knock off the wordiness of, the September, KPI Black Belt September. We can make it smaller font too. So I'm not 100% sure what's going to work well here. We're so close. Let's try getting rid of some of the wordiness. So we don't have to say KPI Black Belt. We can just say a shorter version of that, right? So if we go over here into attributes, no, that's it. Spence thinking what to do. We've got the main title. So let's just change September and so forth to a shorter, just because. So September 25. Well, let's do 3 letters. February 26. And again, there's other ways to fix this problem, but I always like to take the simplest one. Okay, I think everybody will understand September. Be sure you click save and then save again. If you feel that's confusing, then the other option is we make that section from the second column, larger, wider. Let's make sure this is finished saving. It's traveling through space all the way to England and back. He's got a hosted server in London, so I'm in Chicago. It's a long boat ride. Okay, let's take that out for a second. And for some reason, this is not reflecting the change. So we probably have to go over here and re-choose. I should have done that. Just re-choose the proper cohort variation and then save that again. I'm pretty sure we don't have to set the price. That's still set. So, and then save the page. This is one of the quirky things I'm actually going to be fixing in WooCommerce soon. But be sure that you save in the middle of the variations and then save the page for the product. And then once that's done, we'll refresh the checkout. I'll have a sip of coffee. I'm not sure if that's done. Let's try it. Okay, looks pretty good. When we add one in now, watch what happens. It refreshes the page and puts the necessary product, and it fits one line. This is looking really sharp. I'm liking how this is working out. There's a lot of other wordiness here. Notice we got this weird your payment, your order. We don't need both. The your order is coming from the order review. If we go to the review component, we can click over on the block advanced and type in LF hide title. The reason is there is some default text with the WooCommerce component for order review that's right now saying your order. We don't need that if we're going to have it in the column under some other heading that we're going to customize. So when we refresh, now that will be hidden and we just have your payment. So now we have just the two custom headings that were made here, your info, your payment. We have full autonomy now versus what WooCommerce normally gives us. I'm also not a super huge fan since he's only got one payment method at the moment. I don't think we need to say all of these words. So let's fix that. Let's go over here and open in a new tab, the checkout settings for WooCommerce. If we go to WooCommerce settings, and Bernie's taking advantage, as he should, of organizing the stuff to his taste using the admin menu editor. He's not fully in order. He's got components. So he's got store WooCommerce, which now I get. I'm going to go to settings, and then we're going to use the payments tab. And what we're going to do is just adjust under the Stripe Gateway, manage. We're going to set the title of what we want to say. We don't really need to have both. I think people understand it's a credit card. So we'll just make it clear that one time instead of twice. Here we have the credit and debit card options. Thankfully, there's nothing else turned on. So it's KPI Black Belt, credit or debit. We don't have to do that. I think we should just say credit or debit right there one time. And that is going to be the first box, the one that has that little select box in it. So if he did use other methods, like for example, maybe he has some COD, and we'll check here. Let's save this. Hold on. Settings is saved. So let's just go back. You could see in the top, it'd be like COD or debit or credit. It wouldn't need the description below it. So he does have cash on delivery as one of the options. So that's the example where if it's a product that allows for cash, the choice will be radio button, either credit or debit or not. Now, again, for some reason, I'm having a Spence needs to wait to save moment. Somehow I did not give it its due diligence and patience. Let's try it one more time. X. I think my problem in this case was there's a secret save changes button at the bottom. One of the things that bugs me a little bit about the WooCommerce interface at the moment is it's amazing and there's lots of add-ons, but you have to be super, super, super diligent to always be looking for the hidden second save button. There are infinite instances of 2 save buttons on the same page. Okay, so here it actually is still not saving. I have to click another button. This is sort of mind-blowing to me. Save changes. Save changes. I'm just going to click until it hurts. I like to have fun. Finally. Okay. So now you can see it's cleaning up real nicely. And the reason that I like the coupon here is because it's sort of, look, we've got the order review. Do you want to use a coupon? We can slip it in there if you want before you actually use your payment stuff. Notice here's the pay by invoice. So if somebody did want to pay that way for a high ticket item, it's just available. Next, this your info stuff. I actually think it's fine, but I think it's a little busy with the labels, but it's otherwise fine. Let me show you how we would correct this. If we go into WooCommerce settings again, and this time what we want to do is go under, let's leave. We want to go under the checkout tab. The checkout tab allows us to customize the billing fields, and we can choose to make all of them a full width field. So if we go here to billing, that is the custom editor for which fields to show. And notice we can also hide or remove or reorder any of them. I've dragged the email to the top. Let's say I wanted to make it full width. Notice that the email, here's full width. If I wanted to do the same for the first and last names, I could just go first name full width, last name full width. Make sure it saves. And you can do that street address and so forth. The reason you choose to do that is based upon what your own designs are, because again, you might feel better the way it looks when it's full width. Maybe this is easier for people to understand. I think personally, it's probably fine as it was with just the column widths that we have. However, this is how we go about changing it. What I would suggest is you can also reduce or minimize the wordiness. I don't think that you need to have, the display of optional. That seems sort of like redundant. And other details for invoice. I don't know that we necessarily need to have all the other EG and so forth. So if you wanted to change those things, or if Bernie wanted, it's just available here, right? You can click edit and change the wording you want, right? And I'm not going to do that. I'll let Bernie do that. But the concept is that you have the full control now over the fields, the layout of the fields, the labels of the fields, and so forth. Okay, now let's just deal with this busyness here. Empty cart, return to course. Okay, if we're going to put the stuff here, we really don't need the return to course. Okay, so one of the things you could do is either hide or remove the button. If you just wanted to hide it, but leave it there for future purposes, we could use the visibility controls. In this case, we could just conditionally display it and just say, never display it ever. But I would say for common sense purposes, we just want to delete it. In terms of returning to previous page, that's still sort of useful. But I don't know if it's as useful in the context of we're really just going to send somebody this page to choose their course, check out, and pay. That's kind of the whole concept here. So what I might do instead is just abandon that at the moment, and we can always put it back because it's a pattern. And let's just take the button itself and put that button somewhere where it might be useful, like right below the order review. I think that's a relevant spot. And it will look attractive. It'll be functional because somebody will see it in the context where it's really relevant. Because of that, we can get rid of this row. And again, Bernie had already had this saved, or I have it available as a pattern. We can always restore it and reuse it, anytime. That's the beauty of working in line here. And now we should come up on what is pretty much like the meat and potatoes. By the way, the empty cart button isn't necessary if you only have one product. The only reason that's necessary is if you, for example, had 2, 3, 4, 5 different products and you're just like, I don't want to check all the check boxes. So I will say, given how much attention this takes, I'm just going to remove that. I don't think we need this at all. Sorry. buy button. Okay. And this, to me, represents a fantastic situation. There's plenty of other design stuff I can do, but this really does the meat and potatoes. On some of the checkouts like my own, I've actually put a toggle section where this stuff is located, for example, and this is completely optional. The clients that buy my stuff are virtual. In other words, they're not really getting stuff shipped to them. Notice my checkout layout, which could be easily copied and pasted. I have a different emphasis because I really have fewer things I want people to pay attention to. And when you buy from me, I just need your email first and last name. But for my European Union customers, there's this little toggle, and the toggle allows me to have a component that whips out all the extra fields that somebody could use if it's important for them to have an invoice that has, for example, their VAT number and address. But for my American clients or people that are buying most of my software or service online solutions, I don't need their address. I mean, I'm not mailing them gifts, at least not physical gifts. So this is an example of the same components as this, just laid out differently. When you are all done, it's worth referencing. I would save this whole thing. You can either manually select all the components by holding your shift key down, right? So select the first one, hold the shift key down, and then click any of the buttons and say, create a pattern. And I'm going to call this Spence one page checkout. And then I'll put a date on it so I know when I made it, 04/03/25. And I'll put it in the, I think I have a checkout category. If not, I will make one. Now I'm going to keep this synced because in case I use this pattern again, I might want it to change every instance where it's installed, even if it's, on one page or the other. If you don't want that option, you can detach it. And that's just going here and detach. And that allows you to have the same pattern saved, but now this will be modified and not change the other ones. And that's all we need. So this right here accomplishes almost everything that Bernie was asking for in terms of styling, layout, mechanics, and so forth. Now, it's important that the products that are offered in the order bump have to have as their after checkout or after added to the cart option, they have to have that very page. So let's go to the product itself and notice in the product under LaunchFlows, there's an option of select next step page. Thankfully, it's set to the checkout. If I was doing this on another page, like a custom one-page product checkout, I just want to make sure that that page itself is chosen as where the page should return to when somebody's done. So since that is true, now let's see what happens when we use it. I'm going to choose the February 2026 cohort, and it's going to put it in, refresh the cart, ready to buy. I can increase the quantity, and it has Ajax refresh of the quantity. That's all good. Let's say I change my mind. I want to go September 2026. So I click on that, and it's going to keep nothing. It removes the other one because we had selected the only choose one option. Now, if you don't want people to choose more than one at a time, simply modify the inventory to limit purchases to one item per order, and that will only allow one variation choice, one product quantity, which is a cleaner look and feel, gives you more real estate. And this is the solution. Right now, everything you need in one page. So you could just send literally somebody to this checkout. Here's the neat thing. With LaunchFlows, you could clone this checkout page, put it on a product itself. You could literally turn the product into a one-page checkout. So let's say, for example, you were in the mood and you wanted to have this actual page for the product be the checkout. We can absolutely do that. In fact, we could do that and still show the top stuff simply by taking the checkout contents, which is this layout stuff here. I'm going to show you how I could do this. I don't think it's the best idea because in this case, Bernie has just one product to sell anyway. But if we took this, copied it, and we went to the product, if we pasted that in here, and if we went to the product and we said, choose to add a checkout to this post, and if we made sure that the LaunchFlows page was now KPI Black Belt. And it should be the product, right? So let's choose KPI Black Belt. There's a lot of KPI Black Belts, so let's make sure we get the product. We're going to start from scratch, KPI. I'm not 100% sure. Let's see what the URL slug is. KPI Black Belt something. So let's see if we can catch this. The problem we might have, which I've never encountered before, is he has so many KPI Black Belts listed. Let's do something weird here. This is a weird Spence thing. I'm going to call it product, just so I can choose it. Because once you've chosen it, it will remember the same page even if you change the title. This is just a weird trick. I also want to show you when I'm doing this, I have a new version of how this all can be done in way, way, way simpler, less steps format. I'll show you that when I'm done. But let me refresh the page and see now if I type the word product, I can choose that checkout page better. Okay, so now if we go down to the product data tabs for LaunchFlows, let's choose the word product and see what comes up. So now it's easier. Now I've chosen the right thing. Let me save that. Again, if your naming is a little easier and not using the same word 90 million times, then it's fine. But I understand because Bernie's got products as well as courses that reference the main product name. Okay, all I have to do is save that and it'll be good. Now, what have I accomplished? I've actually made it that this page for the product is its own checkout. Let's see what happens. Notice too, and this is important, that we're still displaying the same default thing for the moment at the top of the page. Okay. This isn't going to display what we need. So we have to make one more change. If we go to the bottom, LaunchFlows, see where it says product template. Watch what happens if I choose default template. Default template shows the original components of the page, but then puts the additional stuff below. It's not what we really want, but I want you to see what happens when I do this. You're going to get this weird hybrid. So you'll notice we've got our full radio button and the selector, all the other cool stuff is here, but we also still have the original, and they will work in harmony if you want. It's just kind of like an odd situation. If you did this, I would just hide or remove the radio button stuff because you've already got it on the page. Watch what happens when I add, let's do September 2025. It's going to do the same behavior. Remove the 26, put in the 25, but I'm using the drop-down selector. You see, it works perfectly fine. So if I did this, since I'm on the product page, I would just, and again, this is a great reason why we use the row layout, just get rid of the row layout entirely. Don't need it. And now I have got, once that saves, I've got the page with the whatever WooCommerce default stuff I want, but it now brings the products, let's do September 26th, and puts it below. This might be an alternative for any purpose you want. Good news is you can do both. So you can leave this here and you can have a one-page checkout. So on the one-page checkout, you can have other options as upsells or order bumps that are different and still take advantage of a one-page checkout here, which is nice because if you think about it, I also have an option in LaunchFlows to get rid of that word product. So if, for example, you wanted to do so, you go to LaunchFlows, and this is a tricky one. I don't want to always do this because there might be reasons why you want to have the product in the URL string. And it could also monkey around with some of your other, I mean, if you have a course that has the word product, it might cause some unexpected behavior. But this is what I do. I use this option here that removes the product slug from all permalinks, which means that the product page no longer has kpiblackbelt.com/product/whatever. If you choose this, save it, you have to go to the permalinks, set the permalinks once, and then it'll work. So that's an option. But what we're left with is you can use the URL of the product now as like a great sales tool. Just say, go here and everything you need is in one spot. And the checkout works perfectly fine. They end up in the same place you would send them by using the LaunchFlows options here for what happens post-checkout, which is the thank you page. Okay. Now, if on the other hand, I wanted to completely emulate the normal checkout that I had just done, I would choose blank template. And in doing so, I would restore my order bump thing. By doing that, the blank template hides all of the original WooCommerce stuff, even on the product page. So let's refresh. And this is how you can achieve multiple custom one-page checkouts per product. I still notice have a different URL that I can use to send people to, but notice that it looks and acts just like its own checkout, and it has specifically the product array that I want. We can mix and match any products conditionally based upon what people have bought, how much they've spent, what day of the week it is, anything, but we can have an unlimited number of custom checkouts as well because they would just exist on their own page or their own product page. Okay. I think I've got everything for Bernie. I've enjoyed this. This is a longer than I thought. It's 41 minutes, but I'm going to put it into YouTube. I'm going to send it out to you guys via email. Let me know if this is useful, because this is the kind of stuff that happens normally in my private consultative process. And I feel like there's a better way to get it out here. So I'm going to work this into some AI, into some lessons, into some recipes. Then it's going to go into the MinuteLaunch site so you could find this and use this as a self-help reference. I hope that I'll hear from you. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you have a great day. Talk to you soon.